In this video, we got some affordable spec pickups. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, I got my recent comic book haul that I'm going to show off to you guys. And all of the books here are books that I'm dubbing, affordable spec. And what do I mean by affordable spec? Well, everything that I'm going to show you guys here today are books that I feel like are proportionally to what they are relative to, like, say, some of their counterpart books, I think are affordable in terms of their spec value. So I know that that's kind of a mouthful, but I'll get into it and explain why I think what I think once we kind of flip through the books. But before I get into the books, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, helps support the channel, do one of those things, and I would appreciate it. But let's get into the good stuff right away. And I got to show off my first book here. And this is what I mean by affordable spec, because this book right here to me is the most sort of affordable X-Men villain spec that kind of still remains out there in the X-Men, rogue gallery of villains. And this book right here is Longshot #3, first appearance of Mojo. And Mojo is this character that, is kind of like, I'm not going to say that Mojo is like the X-Men's most notorious villain, but definitely, a notable villain out there in the X-Men universe. And to me, like, this is one of sort of the last affordable X-Men villains that you could really spec on, because, other books like Sinister, Apocalypse, Sauron, other characters like that are in the X-Men mythos have absolutely gone to the moon recently. But not this one right here, not this one. Maybe it's because Longshot is, I guess, a long shot to come to the MCU. But this is, it's a newer book. It's from the 80s. And maybe there's a lot of reasons that are, going against this one. Or maybe people don't feel like Mojo is going to be that character that makes their way into the MCU, at least anytime soon. But for me, you never really know with these things. I mean, Longshot is a character that hasn't really been explored. We're getting into those like kind of multiversal universes where, they might be able to explore some of the more kind of wacky, insane ideas that are in the X-Men universe. And Mojo is a character that, I feel like you can make a really good TV show about it. I don't know if you guys are watching the Squid Games out there right now on Netflix. It's an incredible show, but I can imagine a show that's kind of like that with like a Mojo universe or like a Murder World or something like that. And we kind of have like the Squid Game where all the X-Men have to play this game against Mojo. So anyways, this is a really cool book. I'm super happy I found this one. Got it for $20. Not a bad deal if you ask me. And, definitely a really nice copy too. I think this is easily like a 9.2, 9.4 candidate, something like that. So happy I got this one. Longshot #3, first appearance of Mojo. I would love to find Longshot #1 for myself at some point, but I'm never going to buy these things off of eBay. I want to find them under FMB. All right, the next book I got here is another cool one. This is Marvel Team Up #15, featuring Spider-Man and Ghost Rider. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the first appearance of a character known as the Orb. Now, I don't really know too much about the Orb, other than he's got a giant eyeball on his head, and he played a big role in the Original Sin crossover event. Although I do actually think that that was a different Orb. This is the first appearance of the Orb version that is still like a human who wears a eyeball on his head. That one in Original Sin, I believe, is actually a character who has an eyeball for a head. But regardless, you know me, I like my B tier villains. I got to pick up things like this, first appearance of Orb. I don't know if Orb is ever really going to make its way to the MCU, but again, a good Ghost Rider book, a cool team up between Ghost Rider and Spider-Man. So even for that alone, as far as spec value is concerned, I feel like, we're going to see this pairing eventually in the MCU. And, when things like that happen, books like this tend to heat up. All right, going on now to the next book here. This is a pairing of books that I have, of course, talked about this on my channel before. I did a spec video with the defects, and I brought up Fantastic Four #25. Well, I happen to pick up another copy of this. This is the first appearance of the Anachronists, first appearance of Chronopolis, and of course, a great Kang cover. Additionally, I picked up this one right here, which is Avengers Annual #21. This is the next part in the series, which again has the Anachronauts here. Another book that I think is, a really good for spec value. This one here, I mean, I would say don't buy this book off of eBay right now, because I happened to notice that after I made that video, this book definitely spiked in price, as did this one here too. So I would say, these books are out there, they're out there in those bins. I always come across them. So definitely if you find yourself, digging through some dollar bins or some back bins and you find find either one of these books, I definitely think these are worth picking up. As far as spec value for Kang the Conqueror, I do actually think that he's going to have his Black Order, team that he's going to be working with. I also do notice that, even though the Anachronauts to me were always like this team that feels like very tertiary. I mean, like nobody talks about the Anachronauts, but I like to look at other properties like cartoons, like board games, like other things like that, to see if characters are being utilized. And there is a board game that is utilizing Kang and the Anachronauts, and I always find that interesting. So, you never really know. I feel like when these companies like board game companies or cartoons have licenses from Marvel, what they tend to do is they're not mandating, oh, you have to use the Anachronauts, but they're giving these companies a list of like, here are characters you can use, and there's some curation going on in that. And why do they want to have companies make the Anachronauts, for instance? Well, they're kind of curating it because maybe they're planting the seed for us to, consume it and understand that the Anachronauts have a role with Kang. All right, the next book here I got in a dollar bin, and this is a book that I feel like is definitely a little bit more of a long shot, but still, again, affordable with regards to books like this. This is Wonder Man #1, first ongoing solo series for Wonder Man. And Wonder Man, a character, I think that there has been, a feeling that we might get him in the MCU in some kind of way. In fact, recently, there was kind of, not recently, a few years back, it was actually announced that Nathan Fillion was going to be playing a cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where he was going to be Wonder Man, or at least Simon Williamson, like an actor in the actual universe. So you know that Marvel is thinking about Wonder Man in some kind of way. And if in fact we ever get Wonder Man, all the Wonder Man things will get hot. Avengers #9, of course, will get hot. And then these titles like Wonder Man #1, where it's his first ongoing solo series, like things like that. Wonder Man also has a one-shot that's from 1986, I believe, by Bill Sienkiewicz. He also has some Marvel Premiere issues that feature him in the title. So I think that those are pretty cool as well for pickups. But this one here, I felt like a dollar bin book. Why not grab it? If we get Wonder Man, those things definitely get hot. All right, moving on now to the next book here. This is another book that, again, I feel like, I'm trying to frame everything here as affordable relative to their counterpart comic books here. So I picked up Captain America #308, first appearance of Armadillo. Who the hell is Armadillo? Well, there's a couple things that I like about him. #1, I believe that he's an ethnic character, a Native American character, which I like that for, potential of characters like this maybe showing up in the MCU in some kind of way. #2, we've noticed Armadillo being used recently in Nick Spencer's sort of Sinister War run. So Armadillo's been popping up. And I feel like if you're getting utilized in some kind of way, in the current comic book run, I'm very interested in your first appearance. Came across this book. It was like a $2 backbin book. So I felt like, hey, first appearance of a character like this, a random B-tier villain. B tier might be generous. I might actually call him a C or a D tier villain. But when I find books like this, relative to other like C tier villains, I think that this was like a super, super good deal, super sleeper. Who knows if we'll ever really get Armadillo in the MCU in some kind of way. But I like books like this because I feel like those are the perfect type of characters that you would be using in, we got 30 Disney shows coming up, right? They can't all be Kang the Conqueror in them. So they're going to need a bunch of these random villains to slot into these types of shows in the future. All right. Moving on to the next book here, I got this one. This is a cool one. For the reasons I was talking about Wonder Man, I thought that this is a really, really cool book to pick up. But this is Marvel Premiere #26. And what is the significance of this? Well, to me, in my opinion, this would be what I feel like is Hercules' first solo title and first maybe solo story. And I actually think books like this are really interesting with regards to characters who come into the MCU. So we all know that Hercules' first appearance was in Journey into Mystery Annual #1. He would go on to be in many Avengers books and Thor books and things like that. But in 1975, I believe it was, in the Marvel Premiere run, he would get his own sort of solo title. Or solo title meaning this book just featured him. So effectively, it's kind of his own solo story. And I like books like this. I feel like, when we get, or if we get Hercules into the MCU, maybe we're going to get him as soon as, Thor #4. Books like this always get hot. So similar to why I picked up the Wonder Man one, I picked up this one. It was being sold for $4. So I felt like, hey, why not pick it up? Oh, actually, it was being sold for $5. There's the sticker right on it. So $5, why not pick it up? I felt like it was a good investment regardless. All right, the next book I have here is one that I think is actually really interesting. This is Guardians of the Galaxy #12, and this is the first appearance of Phyla-Vell as Martyr. Now, Martyr is kind of the current moniker that Phyla-Vell is sort of adopting as far as like where her current character is, is in the current run of comic books. And, for that reason, I kind of like it when we get characters as the version of themselves. Now, I think that the first appearance of Phyla-Vell is still a great book to pick up. I definitely think it's worth having. But if I am going to, use an analogy, I feel like it's like having first Monica Rambeau versus first Monica Rambeau as Spectrum. And I feel like if we get Phyla-Vell into the MCU, I actually do think that they'll use the Martyr moniker for her, because I feel like they want characters like this to have their own ownability. And I think Martyr is like her first official, this is your name. You're not like Phyla-Vell like Nova, or you're not Phyla-Vell like some kind of, child of, Captain Marvel type of thing. Like they need to be their own character. So I do feel like Martyr, Phyla-Vell, kind of like Monica Rambeau, Spectrum, will sort of be the way that they kind of frame a character like that. And I really do believe that we're going to get this character in the MCU in some kind of way. I mean, I think it's possible we could see them as soon as, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Phyla-Vell, of course, a very important character to the Guardians of the Galaxy mythos. Feels like Phyla-Vell is used a lot in the current comic book runs. Of course, in the Abnett and Lanning versions, when we got this character, she had a significant role to play. So I like this character. I like characters like, Marvel Boy is another one in that same sort of mythos of characters. So this is a cool book to me. A great cover, by the way. So definitely one that I think is worth picking up, worth getting hot, or could potentially get hot when we get her in the MCU, and could be like the money book if we end up getting Martyr specifically. This is one that I actually talked about in the key comic book spotlight video I did for this character. But this is Ghost Rider number 10. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the return of the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, and also, incidentally, the first appearance of a character known as Zodiac. Now, Zodiac, we got to talk about him for a second, because why do I know who Zodiac is? Well, Zodiac had a comic book card in the Marvel Series 3 comic book cards, if you guys remember that set. And so Zodiac was always a character that I always felt like, oh, this is an interesting character, has a cool comic book design, but incidentally, makes her first appearance in issue number 10 and then dies 10 issues later in issue number 20. So do I think that Zodiac is a character that has legs in, the MCU in some kind of way? No, not really. But Zodiac, within context of the story, was an agent of Nightmare. So he has that sort of connection. And I do think that, if we start to get Ghost Rider stories being explored, when we see characters like him come into the MCU, I know that this is like the Danny Ketch version, but if we start to see that stuff explored, I do think that there's certain characters like a Zodiac that can be kind of like a one season villain in a Disney Plus show, or like a one movie like henchman type of thing. So I still think it's a significant book. I still think this is a great cover, and having it be the return of Johnny Blaze, I think makes this book noteworthy as a pickup. So found this one in a back bin. Again, another book, I think it was priced at like $4 or $5 or something like that. So definitely one that I think, relative to its spec potential, is definitely worth picking up. All right, the next two books I got to talk about in tandem, because I picked these two up together, and I think these are super, super interesting. The first one here is Marvel Superheroes Contest of Champions number 1, and another one I got here is a super clean copy of Incredible Hulk number 250. And one of the things I think is so interesting about this is that Marvel Contest of Champions number 1 is actually considered Marvel's first limited series, like the first time that they would do something that wasn't sort of an ongoing. This is the first time they kind of explored that. I believe this is a book that came out in 1980. One of the things I think is really interesting about this is this feels like it was Secret Wars before Secret Wars became what it is. And obviously a great cover, seeing all the heroes on there. Contest of Champions is a brand name I feel like they've used a lot with regards to video game titles and things like that. But this is a book that has not necessarily caught on in the market. Additionally, I think it's really interesting because the Grand Master in Thor number 3, the tournament that they actually had, he actually referred to it as the Contest of Champions. And, what we know from the story is that the Grand Master is involved in this. Like, he takes the superheroes and he's playing against the character known as Death, and they make a bet against each other. And the Contest of Champions, they have to pick teams. All the heroes have to pick teams. So this was really Secret Wars before Secret Wars. Now, if this were, if Thor #3 were coming out in today's comic book climate, I feel like Contest of Champions would be a huge spec book that everybody was going for. This would easily be like a $30 or $40 book. But because that movie came out when it did, the name Contest of Champions hasn't really had as much spec. But I do really think that at some point in the future, we're going to get more Grandmaster in the MCU. I do feel like Jeff Goldblum will reprise his role. And I think that, if we're going to use Grandmaster in some kind of way, we're going to have games being played. That's definitely like what the Grandmaster does. In fact, he even has ties to Kang the Conqueror, where he challenges Kang the Conqueror to a game. So I do think that the idea of the Contest of Champions will return into the MCU. I do think that this book is interesting for that reason. And, being that it's such an epic cover, I think it's super, super interesting. Additionally, this does actually feature the first full appearance of a bunch of kind of random characters. There's like Collective Man, and there's Sabra, I think it is. So characters who are like not really, really well known, but this does have a bunch of first appearances of them, which leads me to this book here, which this is the first cameo appearance of some of those characters as well, like Collective Man and Sabra and things like that. So again, this book is really interesting because, one, I think it's just an epic cover. It's a great story by Maslow. And I really like this book, just for having a cool, Incredible Hulk Silver Surfer cover. But it does actually feature those cameos of those characters. This is also credited as being the first cameo appearance of Ursa Major, who, of course, was in the Black Widow movie. Feels like we're going to be getting more of them. But I do think that these books are interesting as far as spec is concerned, because I do think some of those characters that do have their first appearances in this, like a Collective Man or something, I'm not ready to say that those characters are coming to the MCU in some kind of way, but I do like that they're global characters, they're ethnic, they're different diversity, and Collective Man was used in the recent Jason Aaron Avengers run, so it's not like he's completely forgotten in Marvel. At least they're still thinking about him in some kind of way. So these two books are interesting as far as their spec values are concerned, and I think for this one alone, just for having a great cover, I definitely think it's a great pickup. Found this one for 10, found this one for 6. So I thought these were great books to buy together. All right, 2 more books here, and 2 are my favorite that I have in this list. This one right here is X-Men #193. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the first appearance of Firestar within context to comic book continuity. So what does that mean? Firestar, a character, I don't know too much about her backstory or origin. I mean, I've seen her many, many times. I know she can fly. I know she's part of the New Mutants. I think she shoots fire from her hands or whatever it is. She was a part of the Excalibur team. So I know that she plays a significant role, but I haven't done much reading on her as a character. But she made her first appearance in a comic book that was out of continuity. It was like a tie-in to like a cartoon or a TV show or something like that. And then I think that maybe the character was so popular or successful that they decided to bring her into continuity, and she would make her first appearance in continuity in X-Men #193. So this is a cool book for that reason. Found this one for $4. Definitely a steal in my opinion, because this is a book that I actually do feel like, is kind of like a $20 or $25 book. But Firestar, again, a character that I feel like is affordable spec in proportion to like other characters. Like if you were going to find a first appearance of an X-Men character, like I don't know, like that could come like a Jubilee or, a Dazzler or something like that. I mean, you're paying way, way, way more than you are for, the first appearance of Firestar. So I think that this is a really, really good pickup. I think it's a really interesting spec. Additionally, this is the first appearance, I think, of Thunderbird, who is like the brother of Warpath. It takes up the mantle and stuff like that. So I think that is really interesting as a potential for a character that could come to the MCU because of the diversity aspect. But I like this book. I like Firestar as a character. I like that she was a New Mutant. I like that she was an Excalibur. I like a lot of things about her. And I think that, just character design alone, I think that she could definitely play a role in the future. All right, and the last book here I have is the one that I'm most excited about. And this one I do feel like, relative to its spec, as far as like characters that you would proportionally put it against, the time in which this book came out, I think like this one right here is super, super affordable. And I do think that this is a character that we will eventually see. But this is Journey into Mystery #114, first appearance of Absorbing Man. And Absorbing Man, of course, if you guys don't know, has the power to absorb whatever texture they touch, and then they become that element. So if he touches metal, he becomes metal, wood, he becomes wood, etc., etc. So, you know, you often find him touching like Mjolnir, and then he becomes all Uru, and he's like super, super powerful and strong as a result of that. But I think as Absorbing Man is a great character, someone who we could really, you know, they could definitely utilize. Like I put him right there next to sort of Abomination. In fact, if you go back to Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Absorbing Man and Abomination was the leader's two main lackeys. So I definitely like him as a character, you know, having, you know, being that brute that can be in, you know, the movies and challenge the Avengers, etc. This book right here, I think, is an awesome cover. And when you compare this to like other, you know, first appearances within this run, or first appearance of like, say, like an Abomination character or something like that, this book is way, way, way less than those other ones. And I do actually think that Absorbing Man, because of his character design, is really easy to execute in the MCU. So I really do feel like this is a character that they can easily put in a Disney Plus show. Doesn't cost a lot to make him happen, and it's one that I think has played a significant role like in all of the MCU. Additionally, Absorbing Man does marry Titania, and we know that we're going to get Titania in the She-Hulk show. So there is a little bit of a connection there. I do think it's really interesting. I love this cover. Super, super glad I found this one. This one was being sold for $60, so I had to swoop it up, and I'm happy I did. Well, that is my affordable spec book comic book haul. Again, these are all books that I kind of wanted to frame as like, I think relative to other books that you would spec on for the same reasons, I think that these books are all very affordable in comparison. And for that reason, I think that they were all worth picking up. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Do you guys have any of these books? What books have you guys recently picked up over the last weekend? Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next video.